Season 7th, 10th episode of Marvel's Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. aired recently, and I, ever the fan of the show, am here once more to break it all down. So I hope you'll join me after the intro. Well, hello there! My name's Jeremy and welcome back to Freeform Disney, where I talk about all aspects of Disney, from the animated movies to the theme parks to Star Wars, Marvel, and Pixar, and the TV shows, and everything else in between. And that is why it's Freeform. And keep coming back every day for new daily content. If you're not subscribed yet, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. We're watching the newest season of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and it's time to talk all about Episode 10, also known as Stolen. A title which I think is a clever reference to multiple things that happen in the episode, such as stolen inhuman powers, as well as a certain kidnapping that happens near the end of the episode. Well, everyone, it's time to finish setting up the big climax to the whole Nathaniel and Afterlife arc. So let's go break it all down. Our good old agents head back to the lighthouse, and hey, we even get to check in on one of our agents from that whole crazy Mac and D episode. And she's been apparently taking care of the lighthouse for them. See, we do make references on occasion back there. It tends to be about one reference per episode, and that's about the only reference we make. We don't get a whole lot of follow-up on the whole Daisy Sousa thing from last time, but there is a little bit, because Simmons is noticing some of that chemistry going on between the two of them. And, well, we do see the connection the two of them have, although that's not necessarily anything beyond that during the course of this episode. And then also, while we were talking about Simmons here, there is definitely some talk about why the countdown isn't actually happening. And during the course of that, well, Daisy tells Simmons about the whole fact that she broke down really badly when Diana was removed. And that leads to Simmons and Deke later talking, and Simmons being quite worried that Fitz might actually be dead, and maybe they've never been receiving messages from him at all. Well, anyway, back to the rest of them. They decide to go ahead and protect Jiang, and so they signal them to come over to the lighthouse. And of course, no, we don't tell Daisy about Cora in time. That gets interrupted. Although, in fairness, it really is pretty shocking to think of how little time has actually gone by for our agents. They get very, very little time to rest. It's from one spot to the next, to the next, to the next, to the next, constantly running. Yikes. Anywho, Jiang and Gordon pop on in, they teleport into a good old lighthouse, and, well, Daisy gets, to find out that Jiang has another daughter. Not quite the best way to find that one out. And she gets to talk a whole lot with May about that one. Yeah. We'll get back to good old Daisy and her mother here a little bit later, because first we got to do a few other things. So we jump on over to Afterlife, and we get to watch some inhuman powers getting transferred, because good old knifey dude, can't remember his name right now. Well, anyway, his powers are given to some other Hydra agent, and then Nathaniel tells Cora to go kill him, and she does. Clearly setting up where we're headed for Cora here later on in the show. After all, we've got to take her all the way down to that point so we can, well, I assume redeem her in the long run. That's where I assume we're going with that one. We'll see. Well, and while we're in Afterlife, well, we've got this whole plan to go rescue all of the good old Inhumans who are stuck there. And so that means Coulson's going to go ahead and go because, after all, he's got his superpower, so he'll come back if the worst happens. And, well, they do get captured right off the bat because Sybil had already foreseen it using the good old time stream. Yeah. Although, when it comes down to it, I don't think Sybil, well, gave a shit about whether they actually rescue the rest of the Inhumans. Didn't seem to matter to her plan at all, because she didn't seem to do anything to really stop it. And that makes some sense. What Sybil's plan really was certainly about capturing Gordon, though, and getting that teleportation power. As for the rest of them, yeah, whatevs. She could care less. So that teleportation power gets given to an old enemy of ours, or rather, I guess, a young enemy of ours, because he's actually far younger than we knew. So it's good old John Garrett, who died way back end of season 1, long time ago. And at the beginning of the episode, we actually saw Nathaniel recruit him, and then he ends up giving good old John Garrett Gordon's powers. But first, Coulson and Garrett get to have some fun verbal play back and forth. And reminds you a little bit of just late season 1 when we actually did have Garrett in there. And that was Bill Paxton playing him. And here's an intriguing trivia piece. The person playing him is a younger person here in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. is his son, James Paxton, who did a great job of pulling off a performance that really reminded me of his father there. Well, anywho, they go ahead and teleport away and head off to the lighthouse. Meanwhile, back over at Afterlife, Gordon and Coulson are tossed into a prison-y kind of room, and Gordon sacrifices his life to transport Coulson out of prison. Talk about changing the timeline. There goes another one of our people that were quite significant in some of the events that happened. So Gordon's dead. Well, let alone the fact that Garrett has superpowers and isn't necessarily going to become Hydra the way he did, and etc., etc., etc. I mean, heck, you don't even see how Daisy gets conceived in this timeline at this point. It is a bloody mess what's going on with the timeline right now. Elastic or not. So that takes us back over to the lighthouse, and hey, Garrett and May get a nice fight. Once again, just showing off how awesome May is, even against somebody who has those kind of powers. And now I said we're going to get back to good old Daisy and her mother, and we do, because during this time that we've been away, well, Sousa had convinced Daisy to go ahead and take that opportunity and talk to her mother. And he really did a good job of helping push things along on occasion. And you get to see Daisy and Jiang really connect. And during the course of it, Daisy talks about her mother without telling Jiang, well, that she is her mother. And so there's some ugly truths that come out in there, which will come back to haunt a little bit later. Well, they end up starting to leave, trying to get Jiang somewhere safe once they find out that Nathaniel and Garrett teleported into the base. And they run into Nathaniel. And Nathaniel, being the good, helpful villain, and for character development that he is here today, reveals that Daisy is Jiang's daughter. Now, the moments between mother and daughter as that realization sweeps over her are priceless here, too. And in the end, this section just results in Jiang attempting to protect Daisy by draining the life from Nathaniel, but it, well, doesn't work because Nathaniel breaks out and snaps her neck. Yeah. Although, dang, the reaction from Daisy after that. Whoa. The rage, the fury, and Nathaniel, who is often this way over cocky and arrogant character all around, who was even all talking about, oh, hey, I've now had these powers for longer than you have. Well, you see him scared for his life looking at Daisy at that moment. Yeah, so much for that arrogance right there. But we don't see that one end up resolving because May pops in, shoots him in the shoulder, and the two of them run off. Which gives Daisy some time next to her mother's body to, well, grieve a little. Yeah. Meanwhile, the whole rescue mission is a success. The other Inhumans are now aboard the Quinjet, we're taking him out, and Coulson got Cora, who was patiently waiting for him. Seems she was told by Sybil to expect it, and she's looking forward to seeing her sister. And I think we're all looking forward to seeing that interaction between Cora and good old Daisy. See what happens once the two of them are finally back together. I guess not really finally back together, they've never been together. When they finally meet. Yeah, there we go. That's what I'm trying to get at. Well, anywho, the conclusion to this episode, who are they after the whole time? Because they weren't after good old Jiang. They were after Simmons. Garrett captures her, and then Nathaniel and him steal Zephyr 1. Now, it's not really that Nathaniel's after Simmons. No, it's about Sybil being after Simmons, and, well, she's able to get Nathaniel to go with whatever the heck she says, considering everything Sybil's done from Nathaniel at this point. Yeah, it figures, makes sense. Although, he is one hell of a pawn, just an unwitting pawn in Sybil's plans. Anywho, the reason we're going after Simmons is, well, apparently Fitz is the one factor that continues to foil the Chronicoms over and over again, so we're trying to get that info out of her. So that would certainly imply that Fitz is very much alive and well and causing all kinds of havoc for Sybil and the Chronicoms. Yay! That means we might see him soon. But hey, we do have an inside man as Deke happens to be on board Zephyr 1. Dun dun dun! Find out more on that next week. So, whew. Well, there you go. A fair bit happened in the episode. But it also just seemed to fly on by. It did not feel as long an episode as, say, some of the others have. Now, the highlight of the episode, no doubt, was the Daisy and Jiang interactions. It was so good. Such great character development moments, the chemistry between the two, on spot as always. And now, I don't think Jiang is truly dead, or permanently dead, however one wants to put that. Although it did provide a nice moment in the show, having her die and Daisy's reaction to it. But there's just too much left for her as a character, I think, with both Daisy and Cora around. And heck, I'd be sad if it was a permanent death. I don't want her to be dead. I want to see more of what happens there. Nathaniel. Well, Nathaniel. Hey, at least we have a more interesting villain to care about now that Garrett's here. Sorry, but in the course of part of an episode, he was far more interesting as a villain than Nathaniel's ever really been. Now, that said, still looking forward to a major quake-off between Nathaniel and Daisy. But aside from that, now Garrett, on the other hand, is a nostalgia trip to be sure. And also a ton of fun. Should be interesting to see any other interactions that come up between him and Coulson during the rest of the show. And hey, definitely looking forward to next time, as we're sure to get to see Cora and Daisy meet up. And it also looks like we're finally going to be seeing Fitz soon, maybe next episode? Here's hoping. And with all that, well, guess what? It is that time. So what about you? Did you love the Daisy Jiang interactions as much as I did? What did you think about young Garrett? Let me know down below in the comments. And thanks for watching. If you liked the video, please give it a like, share with anyone who you think will too, and don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. I'll see you back here tomorrow for another new episode of Freeform Disney. Have a magical day, and may the Force be with you always.